Everyone, welcome for our newcomers who just joined us. I'm Blake. I'm the Blake Hush, the Director of Training and Outreach at LVS. A full list of all of our upcoming trainings within this Resilience webinar series is also on our VAP training webpage and will be referenced towards the end of today's presentation. You may have also received one too many notifications via email yesterday with all of these links, and so that is my apologies. Please keep in touch with these webinar series that are coming up. There are many more, and we're excited to offer them to you during what is a challenging time for sure. Today's webinar will be led by Jennifer Amstutz of JA Strategies and Alan Krieger of Krieger Solutions. We're going to introduce themselves as well in a minute. Both Jenny and Alan have more than 40 years of combined experience in consulting and training, working with nonprofits and agencies around the state of New York. Both Jenny and Alan have served as executive directors of nonprofit organizations and both have master's degrees of some form in management. Jenny and Alan also are lead consultants for the Training and Technical Assistance Request Program, which I believe Alan or Jenny are going to talk a little more about later as well. Finally, as soon as you exit today's webinar, you'll be directed to an evaluation survey. It'll automatically pop up in your web browser. Please take a couple minutes and give us feedback. That is super helpful, and it actually will be in real time used to implement any updates or changes that we may need for our next webinars. You'll also have an opportunity at that point to notify us if you're interested in receiving more training and follow-up on this or a variety of topics. So please take a few minutes at the end of today to complete that for us. With that said, I'd like to go ahead and turn it over and formally welcome Jenny and Alan to today's webinar.
Thank you, Blake. Good morning. I'm Jenny Amstutz, and I know people are hearing beeps in the background. We are going to see if we can turn that off. I think it's the beeping as people join as new participants. So bear with us on that. In the meantime, I'm going to get us started. All right, sorry about that. So I'm going to orient everybody to WebEx across the bottom of the screen. You will see a banner like the one that is in this slide. And during the program today, if you have questions or comments, I know some of you found it already, you can click on the chat box, which is the one that looks like a balloon. Feel free to enter questions and comments. We're going to monitor those during the program today. And then we will reserve time at the end of the program to answer questions. But if you are having problems with our audio, that's a good place to put it in there as well. In a few minutes, we'll also be given the opportunity to participate in an online poll. When we open the poll, it will pop up on the right-hand side of your screen, on the right-hand side of your screen, and you'll be able to click on your responses. After the poll, you can click on the X in the upper right-hand corner to close the poll on your screen. And at the end of the program, we will be making available, I think Blake said this before, but both the video and the slides will be available on the website at the end of the program. With that in mind, we've made this webinar a bit shorter than some of our other webinars. We're just going to talk for about 35 minutes or so. After the end of the presentation, we will stay online until noon to answer any questions that people have. The topic today is managing and supporting remote staff. And as Blake mentioned, this is the first in a series of webinars specifically addressing how we operate in this new remote environment. And for some of us, this may be the first time that we've been allowed to work at home or the first time we've had to supervise staff who are not working across the office from us. Others of us may have a little bit more experience with remote supervision. You might have multiple sites or a work at home policy already in place. But in this new crisis and this new environment, you might find that issues you have had with staff members that have been minor issues in the past are amplified, and you need some new strategies for how to manage. So today our focus is supporting and managing remote staff. However, much of what we will cover today are qualities and strategies that are not really unique to supervising remote staff. They apply to leadership and supervision in whatever setting you're in. But we will also discuss areas that are specific to managing remotely as opposed to the way we've been doing leadership qualities and discuss which might be important to people in a crisis. Because few of us are in the same setting as people we are supervising these days, we're going to look at ways to maintain your leadership presence, even when you aren't sharing space. We will review ways you can support your employees and increase morale. We'll discuss how to optimize the way you communicate with staff, and we will look at ways to increase motivation. And finally, we will talk about how performance expectations both empower staff as well as provide ways to hold staff accountable. Now let's start with leadership itself. The next two slides are a couple of quotes that I think really speak to what we are talking about today. The first is a quote from Kevin Kruse, a leadership and management consultant and speaker. He said, "Leadership is a process of social influence, which maximizes the efforts of others towards the achievement of a goal." My second quote is from Sheryl Sandberg, and she's the COO of Facebook. She said, "Leadership is about making others better as a result of your presence and making sure that impact lasts in your absence." Both quotes bring together the idea of leadership as a means to empower and strengthen others and the work they do to make a difference and get things done. The final quote in this section brings us into the first part of our workshop today. We said today we wanted to review techniques for maintaining a solid leadership presence while remote. So what do we mean when we talk about leadership presence? Mark Rittenberg defines leadership presence as a skill set that enables leaders to motivate, inspire, and connect to the thoughts and feelings of others. So leadership presence isn't about actually being present in the same space as your staff. It's about being able to motivate them, to inspire them, and to connect with them wherever they are. So let's talk about what some of the qualities and skill sets leaders need to be able to do this. On this slide, you'll see a long list of qualities. And if you Google leadership qualities, you'll find all of these and many others. So a good leader, if you look at the research, a good leader with presence is realistic, detail-oriented, decisive, collaborative, calm, positive, creative, a good communicator. The list is very long. And do all great leaders have all of these qualities? There may be a few that do, but good leaders will have many of them, and they will work on ways to strengthen their skills in areas where they know they have weaknesses. So now we're going to start with our first poll. And I want you to think about a crisis situation like we're in right now, and which of the qualities that were on that list I just showed you are the ones you feel are most important. You're going to have an opportunity to choose 5. So if we could open the poll now. All right. So in order to narrow it down, I think about the leaders in your organization, in your communities, and in the government. What are the qualities that you've seen that you think have been effective in this crisis? What are those leadership qualities? I want you to go with your gut because you only have about 15 seconds left to vote. Okay, the time is up, so now we will publish the results of the poll, and that should pop up on your screen as well. All right. So Alan, what do you think about these results?
Okay, well, I'm impressed that everybody got to vote so quickly. That was good. If you want to see the percentage, I just widened my screen on the right. You can drag the divider. It'll show you the percent score as well as the numbers. But you can see that there's no top 5 that scored even over 40%. One was up to 35. Being calm is our high score, and certainly that's a challenge in a crisis. And I'm sure many of you have been stretched to stay calm during a number of things that have gone on. We're going to give you today some strategies to help you be more comfortable as a leader, be more present, and therefore more calm. There's also the next webinar coming up is one on stress management that will help with that. But I think the important thing here to see is that there isn't just people don't agree on what are the 5 most important factors for them. Everybody has different needs and different wants from their leader. And so it's important to, well, look at that list that we presented earlier, all the qualities that are important. Know that each of your employees will need a different approach from you. Some will really need calmness, they're anxious. Others will be calm themselves, but want you to be more decisive, want to move forward. So it's important to recognize that you're dealing with a lot of different individuals. Okay, so if you want to close the poll to get it off your screen, there's a little X past the word polling. And again, if you can't see it, you can make your screen a little wider, or you can leave it up there, and it doesn't bother anything to have it up while we talk. Okay, so we're going to look at 5 techniques today for maintaining a solid leadership presence. How you can be the best leader you can for the wide range of employees you'll be working with. We're going to discuss ways you can provide support to employees who are working remotely and why this is so important right now. Strategies to help you boost the morale of your staff and keep it high. Tips for strengthening communication when working remotely so you can keep it open and people feel connected. You can keep communication open and people will feel connected. And all of the above are ways to keep staff motivated, and we have a few other tips we'll give you on how to motivate staff when working remotely. Our final strategy will focus on setting clear expectations in this new reality. And this is also a motivational strategy. It reduces anxiety. People know what's expected of them. And it's also a way to hold people accountable, which is a challenge in a remote situation. The first key element we're going to discuss is supporting your staff and maintaining or boosting morale as needed. As the quote says, for you to be successful as a leader, your team has to succeed. So you have to be willing to take time to help them be successful. In times of crisis like the one we're in now, people may need a wide range of extra support. As a leader, it's important to start from a place of trust. You need to let your staff know that you trust them, you support them, and you will be there for them. You demonstrate that trust by not micromanaging them and not creating new reporting or accountability systems just to check up on them. Instead, start by assuming they're going to do a good job and only deviate from that if you get clear evidence to the contrary. We'll talk later about holding people accountable remotely and get into more detail in a later webinar on managing teams remotely. Accountability is important, and it's more challenging in a remote environment. But if you start with that, you're going to lose your team and reduce their motivation. So begin by asking people how they're doing and take time to listen fully to their response. Follow their lead. If they begin with work, go with that. If they begin with issues related to being isolated, go with that. If they ask you questions about what the agency is doing, take time to answer that as best you can, and then return to them by again asking how they are doing. Actively listening means summarizing and paraphrasing back what you hear and asking open-ended questions to help you more fully understand what they're really thinking and feeling. Don't force them to talk. If they say they're fine and they're ready to deal with work, go with that. You probably had effective work processes in place before this change occurred, and while you want to continue with that as much as possible, be aware that each person is facing different challenges. Some are sharing computers and bandwidths with other family members, or they may be worrying about a loved one who is ill or at high risk. They may be feeling lonely if living alone, or may be irritated if cooped up with others. So some people may need to do some of their work at odd hours. Some may struggle to find a place for confidential phone calls. This is a time to be creative. Stay focused on what needs to be accomplished, but be open to new ways to get there. Facilitate problem solving. Help your staff think through it and explore options. Be supportive and patient, and also be upbeat and optimistic. Encourage people to believe they can succeed. Many people are using technology to connect with family and friends. Try to use that technology to help them also maintain connection with coworkers. People used to drop by each other's workspace to say hi, share some news, and provide support. All that is missing now. When you start a team meeting, take a few minutes to go around and have people share something about their current situation, some strategy they've developed that works for them, news about their kids or family or even pets, something funny or upbeat they've seen or heard, or even something sad or troubling that they'd like to share. Try to keep it quick and keep it light. This allows people to feel connected. Also, if it seems appropriate, suggest that people may want to share a virtual lunch together during a web meeting, using a web meeting, or they may have a virtual coffee before or after work. Encourage people who used to spend time together to keep doing so virtually. In addition to social time outside of work hours, encourage them to use each other during the day to share work challenges and brainstorm solutions, or to collaborate on projects to help each other out. This type of collaboration is even more important now. The more people feel connected, the stronger their morale. As a leader, while it's important to maintain a focus on getting the work done, it's also important to help your staff maintain their emotional health, especially those dealing directly with clients in crisis. Encourage them to take breaks as needed to reach out to each other and you for support, just as they would back at work. Listen carefully for signs of significant stress. Just having someone listen to them can be a great stress reliever for your staff. Encourage them to meditate, to stretch, to exercise, go for walks, whatever works for them and is safe. People who are isolated can quickly become depressed and spiral deeper down. Engaging in wellness activities can help counter this. Here are 2 quotes on communication. As the first one indicates, proactive communication is an essential leadership tool in all situations, but especially when leading remotely. And the second one says the single biggest problem in communication is the illusion that it has taken place. Just because I say something and you listen doesn't mean we've actually communicated. Don't assume understanding, yours or theirs. Take time to check it out by summarizing what you think has been said and see if they agree. Here are some tips for enhancing communication when working remotely. First is to check in daily, both individually with each of the staff you supervise and with your team. Don't feel guilty about bothering people at home with agreed upon business hours. Keeping a routine of daily check-ins as well as scheduled one-on-one supervisory meetings is especially important when the team is not all working in the same space. The check-ins will help maintain the informal connection that you're no longer getting since you're not in the same office. The regular supervisory meetings will allow for dedicated time for the supervisor to give both feedback and support to staff members and will give them time to focus on longer-term goals and objectives. Every planned or scheduled conversation should have an agenda. Let your staff know what you want to discuss and allow them to add items to the agenda as well. Keep this short and simple, just a few bullets. Having this as a shared document that you can each update until the call makes it easy for both parties to be prepared and to stay focused. When you schedule individual or team meetings, don't create a meeting stew. Keep it simple and focused. Have only 1 or 2 action items or purposes for each meeting. This is especially important when meeting remotely. Because everyone's attention is divided now, be sure to follow up meetings with written notes to help keep everyone on track. Also consider scheduling Zoom office hours or whatever meeting software you use so people can drop by and ask questions without feeling anxious and also without interrupting you during times you're focused on a complex task. Zoom has a waiting room feature, so only one person can actually drop in at a time, which helps with confidentiality. And when you see somebody waiting, you can wrap up the conversation you're in, and when they leave, you can bring the new person in. If you used to actively collaborate with others throughout the day, you can set up an open kind of work hangout for people to drop in and connect. Again, using Zoom or whatever, you could just have the meeting open with no waiting room, and people can drop in, chat, ask questions of you or others that may be in the meeting. To minimize interruptions or problematic communication delays, it's helpful to establish a clear communication protocol. One suggestion would be to encourage people to use email with the understanding that they may not get a reply for 2 to 3 hours. This allows you to turn off your email notifications so you're not constantly interrupted. And then for more urgent needs, encourage them to text you with a promise of a reply maybe within 15 minutes. And for an emergency, they can call you for an immediate reply. Let them know that you're following the same protocol so they don't have to treat your emails as an emergency either. In a crisis situation like this, active communication is key. As I like to say, there's no such thing as over-communication. People are hungry for information in times like these, and the more you share, the more they feel connected and appreciated. Jenny likes to emphasize the importance of being transparent. If information is withheld, people just make up their own information and circulate it around. That's how rumor mills and gossip are created. So again, the more you share, the more people are reassured. Jenny's now going to pick up with our next key leadership strategy, motivation.
About motivation, we want to remember that, as John Wood implies, we're not actually motivating per se. We are influencing and supporting others so that they are motivated to do the work. So what are some ways that we can increase motivation? First, people want their work to have purpose and meaning, especially now when a lot of what they were doing a month or 2 ago might feel less important. Be able to hold your staff, help your staff focus by creating what we call an immediate mission, a single purpose that may be narrower than your overall program mission, but is the one thing that you are ensuring happens in this crisis situation. It may be keeping your clients connected or keeping all your clients safe. Think of it as your rallying cry for your immediate work. That's the one thing that you want to make sure everybody is doing. But you can also focus on your core values. Your core values are words and phrases like victim-sensitive, collaboration, inclusivity. Hopefully, many of you have already gone through the work to define these. And in this current environment, the values should be the same and things that you keep in mind to keep when you're doing your work. Immediate mission and core values will help people connect what they're doing and how they do it back to what the program is trying to achieve as a whole during this crisis and moving forward. Secondly, remember that everyone will be adjusting and responding differently right now. For some, that means they'll be hyper-focused. They respond well in a crisis and they have the tools they need at home to get the work done if you just give them the space. But there may be others who are floundering. They are used to working in teams or may feel that this current crisis is overwhelming. Make an effort to really connect with each person individually so you can get a sense of how they're relating, and then facilitate. Motivate people by understanding how you can get the best from them based on where they are mentally right now. That may mean meeting more often and giving a little bit more direction to people who are floundering, and meeting less often and giving a little bit more leeway to others who are feeling better about things. Third, we want you to see the work people are doing and give positive feedback. So what does see the work mean? I think most of us are being supportive during these times, and we're apt to say, oh my gosh, everybody is doing a great job. I'm really proud, you're doing great. But in order to motivate people, it's important to be more specific than that. Be specific about what exactly you've seen someone doing and the impact those actions have had on the team and the program's immediate mission. So instead of saying something like, you're doing a great job, Alex, say, Alex, I really like that email you sent to our community partners yesterday. It communicated how we've had to change our program delivery while still being empathetic to the needs of our clients. Thank you. So very specific so people know how they've made a difference and how they're impacting the work of the organization. Fourth, try and keep your stress to yourself. Everyone is feeling stressed, but if your staff can sense your anxiety, it will increase their own anxiety. So remember how well CALM scored when we did the poll. It was I think that 35% of everybody felt that CALM was important. So this is a time to really do your best to exhibit CALM, even when you're not necessarily feeling it. And finally, as Alan mentioned earlier, uncertain times like these often lead to rumors and misinformation. People are worried about their jobs, they're worried about their colleagues, and the future of the programs and organizations. If you hear that rumors or misinformation is circulating, act quickly as possible to correct these. Uncertainty and misinformation can lead to anxiety and low motivation among employees. Good leaders make people feel that they're at the very heart of things. And when that happens, people feel centered, and that gives their work meaning. And when work has meaning, everybody will feel more motivated. Our final section is setting performance expectations. Performance expectations provide clarity for staff members, empower employees to act more freely, create a reference point when expectations are not met, and they provide a way to hold employees accountable. Because what we do and how we operate it has changed so dramatically in the past few weeks, now is a good time to re-examine performance expectations and redefine them when necessary. When going through the process of setting or resetting performance expectations, make sure that's a two-way conversation. Both a supervisor and a staff member should have input into what expectations are, and that way they'll both accept them better. Both parties should be clear on what the expectations are. Expectations should be specific, but because everyone's work environment has been upended, it's important to remain somewhat flexible in how someone meets those expectations. So some of the expectations, I think there are a lot of different expectations that are part of a workplace, but we wanted to highlight a few. First is agree on work hours and check-ins. People are not going to be starting and ending at the same time as they did before, depending on what's happening at home. But you should know when they will be working and when they won't. And also be clear about how often you expect people to check in with you and how those check-ins will be accomplished. Are email check-ins enough? Can they text? And if you're doing call, does everybody need to be on video, or are you okay with people just calling in? People may feel uncomfortable with the video situation. Be clear about what pre-existing expectations are still in effect from before we went into this current reality, and which are not. And you may want to re-examine any quotas or deliverables if you haven't already. Decide on what projects are current priorities and link the work back to the immediate mission and core values that we talked about in motivation. And keep in mind that people might be overwhelmed about where even to start with their work. So agree which areas or projects are a priority because those projects are the ones that will have the most impact on your immediate goals. And then agree which projects can be or should be put on a back burner until after this crisis stabilizes or subsides or changes in some way. And finally, encourage problem solving. In an office setting, many of us supervise by open door policy. Our staff are continually stopping by for help with small issues or problems. And because that model is difficult now, and Alan has given us some suggestions about how we might continue a form of the open door policy, but it's going to be more difficult than it was when we were all in the same office setting. This is a really good time to encourage your staff to be creative and brainstorm how to solve their own problems. Encourage staff to come to you with solutions instead of problems to be solved. If you have clear performance expectations in place, then you'll have the framework you need to hold your staff accountable for meeting those expectations.
Okay, I have a request. Those beeps you're hearing are people leaving or coming into the meeting. We have over 200 people came in, so it was 200 beeps for those of you that got in early. We're really close to the end, and there's going to be a cacophony of beeping when people leave, so I'd ask you to please wait. We'll give you a chance to close out, and then we're going to stay on to answer more questions. So if anybody has questions, please type them in the chat box. If you feel you're done, just give us 2 more minutes, and then we'll give you a chance to exit calmly without constant beeping. So thank you so much for that. We will take care of this. The beeps will not be on the next webinar, we assure you. We're going to track that down and deal with it. So again, the chat box in the lower right, please type in any questions you have, and we'll be happy to stick around later and answer them. But today's program is part of OVS's Training and Technical Assistance Request Program, or TTAR. OVS created this to provide a wide range of leadership and management support to their funded programs. They're available to you at no charge to you or your agency. For more information, click on the link on the slide to the TTAR program, or it's in the emails you've gotten from OVS. And once there, be sure to take a look at the catalog, which describes the services we offer. We're not limited to what's in the catalog, and we can work with you to design the kind of support you, your staff, and your board most need. If you'd like a specific program or a series of programs offered to your agencies, give us a call to discuss that. The application process is very simple, and we actually can help you write it on our initial phone call. Jenny and I have many years of experience as leaders, trainers, and coaches, and we look forward to sharing our expertise with each of you. OVS is sponsoring a number of webinars, as we've said, in the next few weeks to help you strengthen you and your program's resilience in these challenging times. Some of them will pick up and expand on the points we've covered today. Others add in new strategies. The next one on April 21st presents strategies to help manage stress. First, for you, as they say on airplanes, please adjust your own mask before helping someone else. It's critical that as leaders we stay calm and balanced, so mastering stress management techniques is essential. Then you can use that to help your staff and clients manage their stress. This webinar will be presented by the Institute for Disaster Mental Health at SUNY New Paltz. The remaining ones on the list will be co-led by Jenny and me. We'll try to keep them short and focused since we know it's hard to get uninterrupted time right now. And with each of them, we'll stay on afterwards to answer any questions or discuss anything you'd like. The next program is on April 23rd, which addresses tips for better managing your time and tasks when working from home. We'll focus especially on how to get uninterrupted time to get work done. And we welcome you sharing your successful strategies as well on that webinar. We look forward to hearing from you. You can find more information about these and the rest of the series at the OVS Training Center webpage, as shown on the slide. And as an added service during these stressful times, OVS is making us available to work with leaders at all levels in an organization. We're now providing free individual and group coaching without you having to submit a proposal. See the link on the TTAR webpage for more information about this. You do not need to submit an application to take advantage of this. You can just go to the Calendly link on the screen and sign up. Group coaching provides Group coach, I'm almost done. Hang in there. Group coaching provides an opportunity for you to learn from your peers as well as from us. While Jenny and I have many years of experience to share, we know you all can learn a lot from each other. It's also helpful to hear that others are struggling with similar challenges and you're not alone. If you prefer one-on-one discussions, we also provide individual coaching. You can use this as a sounding board to bounce ideas off of and to sort through challenges and find new solutions. Again, use the calendar link to schedule a coaching call. You can also use it to set up a call with us to talk about a project for your agency. If you want to work with one of us in particular, because you've worked with us before, scroll down to the bottom and you can sign up with either Jenny or me. Otherwise, it's a luck of the draw. And again, please type in any questions you have. We're happy to keep this open for a while longer. Our email is going to be on the screen in a second. Feel free to email us with any questions you have, and we'll try to get back to you in a day or two. Blake?
So I want to thank Ginny and Alan for putting together today's webinar. Please don't forget to take a few minutes. As soon as you exit the webinar, you'll be directed to a Survey Monkey. Please give us your feedback. We really appreciate that. If you do have questions, keep typing them in. We'll get to you after the mass exodus occurs, and bear with us. On the next webinar, we'll disable that feature too. Everybody, have a great day. Appreciate it.
Thank you for hanging in through that. And again, we're happy to stay on and answer any questions.
And there are a few that have come in. Why don't I answer the first one? Then the first is thoughts on ways to support staff who are working from home who have small children, i.e. Ways to balance the needs of the work with not having adequate childcare. And I think that that's one of the biggest struggles that people are feeling right now. And one of the reasons that we talked about, really discussing, what work hours can even happen in this environment. So you may need to be flexible about people doing work on really off hours. And for some of your staff, that's going to be hard because they're interfacing with clients. But see if you can find a schedule that may work so that they can do some work, very early in the morning, maybe before the kids are awake, during lunchtime or nap time. But I think that that's one way. I do, for people who have more than one adult in the household, I have heard of people who are balancing it so that, one adult will work for 2 hours while the other person is in charge of the homeschooling and the childcare, and then they will flip it. So if somebody's working from, 6 to 8, the next person's working from 8 to 10 a.m., the next person, then they switch back 10 a.m. to 12. So that works. If there are 2 adults in the household in families where that's not possible, then you may need to find some other creative ways to think it through. And that may be one time where you need to think about balancing work among staff. So if you have one staff member who has more flexibility, they may be able to take more of the calls, and the person who has childcare needs maybe can do some of the work that doesn't need so much client interface. So it's an opportunity to think a little bit of creatively, but it is a time where people are going to have to be flexible because we know it's hard to get some of that work done. Alan, you have any other things that you might want to add?
No, I think that's the key, is that, being creative about how you assign work, that somebody with small kids really can't be on the phone. It's just not possible to not be interrupted unless they have 2 adults and enough separation in rooms. So, but there's other work that people can do that can be helpful, and finding ways to swap around, I think, is a great strategy. The next question said, if there's not support at the workplace, are there external sites that can be visited to get some mental and emotional support during this crisis, to be at your optimal capacity? And we'd love to share this with your team as supplemental supports. And so I would invite everybody who's still on, if you have ideas, to type that at the bottom of the chat box. We will pull all those off and we can make them available to people afterwards. I don't know anything directly, but I know in every community there are different crisis lines available, mental health services, often county-based. There's a lot of nonprofits that provide crisis intervention services, mental health services. And while I imagine they're all stressed a lot, they are available, and would encourage you to do some Googling with your county name and mental health support. The other thing is to really, really encourage you to make that happen in your agency, that most of you have good relationships with the people you work with. They may not be, deep and personal, but hopefully they're positive. And where that's the case, to reach out to them proactively. If you are stressed, it may not be appropriate to reach out to your subordinates. I would always say that's not appropriate. And this time, I might make an exception if you have a really good relationship with somebody. But hopefully your supervisor could do it, a peer could do it, or maybe somebody you know in another agency, a sister agency who does similar work that you've met. Could be somebody, could be a peer coach or a buddy during this time. I think it's critical to have somebody you can be honest with. Jenny and I are available as coaches for that as well to help you through this crisis. And the group coaching that we're putting together, I think, can be really effective there because people can share what they've done. And I think just hearing from your peers that we're all in this together, we're all struggling with the same thing, can be very supportive. So I'd encourage you to sign up for either the group or individual coaching if you can't find that kind of support, in your community or through your network. But I would absolutely insist that everybody have somebody they can talk to, this kind of support. So if you're a leader, make sure your team has that support. And if you don't have that from above, make sure you find a place to do that. And again, use us if that's needed. We really want to be there for you.
Everyone, this is Blake too. I just wanted to reiterate that some of that will be covered next week as well in a little bit of the self-care webinar that we have scheduled for Tuesday. But I absolutely agree with Alan on this. If Jenny and Alan, if you're okay, I'll take the next question. It was about custom trainings. And they're asking, is there a way to request specific topics or advanced training to review things like, loss of support earnings, et cetera? And there is no formal mechanism for that, but what I would encourage you to do if there's something you're really interested in that is particularly related to the OVS compensation process, one, check out the existing YouTube video series that's on our website. There's a ton of questions that can be answered just from watching a couple of those short videos. And then two, the other option is just to send an email to info@ovs.ny.gov or to us at training@ovs.ny.gov. And we're happy to pass it up the chain or send it to some other people within the organization who might be able to better answer a specific question or training request you might have.
So
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
I just want to clarify that that's not an area that Jenny and I have expertise in. We're really here to help you with leadership issues, communication, teamwork, team building, stress management, time management, being effective in your work. We're not experts in the OVS, technical end of things, and we're not experts in victim services, direct victim services.
Yep.
But we have our niche. It's a pretty big one, and we're happy to help you within that niche.
So one of the questions is, how do you suggest balancing the needs of staff emotionally? We have numerous staff, and some are asking to meet daily to host group check-ins, and others are expressing they don't want to hear how everybody else is doing, and check-ins are bothering them. So do you suggest optional group meetings where staff can join to support each other, as well as mandatory meetings for work information sharing? And I would say yes, that not everybody, if you did any of our webinars in the last go round, Alan and I spent a lot of time talking about different styles and different communication styles. And we all have different styles, and some of us are more social, and we gain a lot more from the support and interaction with others, and some of us are just not that way, and we don't need that in the same way. And so you may want to provide more opportunities for informal check-ins. So when Alan talked about that, providing support and emotional support and boosting morale, one option is having optional Zoom or WebEx or whatever it is, lunches, hangout lunches. So if you want to come and chat at lunchtime, you can do that, or happy hours or coffee breaks. So they're optional. People don't need to be part of them, but it is an opportunity for people who are really missing that interaction. So casual get-togethers, and then mandatory meetings, and so that mandatory work meetings where we're talking about the work, where people are checking in about what's going on. Is vital in this because we're not working together as a team, so those should be mandatory. But having opportunities for people to meet a little bit more casually is important as well. One strategy that we suggest, even when we're talking about meetings in general, to meet the needs of both those of us who want to socialize and those of us who don't, is sometimes having a schedule so that if the business of the meeting is starting at noon, people can get there at 11:45 for the social piece of it, and then they can start the business at noon. So if you're social and you want to chat, you get there earlier, and then the business meeting starts at noon. You can do that as well, but I think in this remote environment, that makes the meeting long, and people are less likely to want to have a long meeting. So if you break them up, have some social opportunities for emotional support and some business related meetings, that can be valuable.
Yeah, and I think, you know, while we encourage frequent meetings, frequent communication, people really need it. We also recognize that there's work to be done, clients to be served, people are stretched thin, you may have people out sick, and so there's a balance. And a really short 1 to 2 minute, hey, how you doing? How's it going? Everything good? That takes 30 seconds. And to let your folks know that I'm going to check in with you every day. I want to say hi. I'm going to keep it really short. If you have a big issue, we can talk about it, but this isn't a time for me to hear, you know, your stories about what your dog did today. I need to keep it quick, but I'm here to check in with you. And you know which one of your staffs, as Jenny said, really need that social interaction, and which ones are just, you know, pretty self-contained and prefer not to be interrupted. And that's the two extremes, and then many in the middle. But you do want to keep a lid on this. You want to have team meetings. You want to have individual meetings, supervisory sessions. But where you might typically have a supervisory session once every week or two for an hour, you might have this, you know, once or twice a week for 10 minutes or 15 minutes. Short, focused, what we need to deal with today. And then occasionally, you know, looking to the future, what are some long-term things we might want to talk about. But keeping the phone calls and the meetings really short. There's a technique they use in some organizations where they have the meeting in the parking lot standing up in the winter, and it makes for a very short meeting. So to find ways to keep it focused and keep it short. Jenny, can you go back one slide?
Yes.
Somebody asked for the link to sign up.
I sent it out, and I think it is in here wrong. I think it's T-TARP. So we will send that. I will create it so it's both.
Oh, yeah, there's a P at the end, right?
Yeah, I actually linked it on our training page as well, so that it's easier, people can access it there as well.
Yeah.
And I just sent the link to all
you can get it.
attendees.
Yep.
Yeah, you want to go back to the training link, Jenny?
Yeah.
I'll just type it in the chat box real quick too.
Well, keep going back. It's there. Oh.
And
yeah.
I just sent it to all attendees, guys.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Calendly.com/OBS-TTARP is in Peter for the open session. And here is our general training and technical assistance request program.
Yep. Okay, and then somebody had a couple comments at the end. One suggested, look, if you have an EAP program, and many organizations do, and that's a great place to get support. So the EAP counselors are designed as an entry level connection, and then at that point they can refer somebody to something more extensive if needed. So EAP is a wonderful recommendation if you have it. Someone also mentioned New York City has a COVID-19 helpline, and I think many counties have something along that line too. That again, if they don't provide that direct mental health support, they would probably have resources available to them. So
Some of the organizations that I have worked with have done some creative, those that have counselors on staff have done some creative partnering with their bigger, if they're part of a bigger organization, to provide some support for staff on site. So it may be something exploring if you're part of a larger nonprofit or human service agency that might have counselors on staff, to see if there's something that they might provide. And then for everybody who is who are lawyers and part of the district attorney's office, I know that the Bar Association has EAPs at EAP services. Many of the counties have their own employee assistance programs, so it may just take a little bit of research.
And if you don't have counselors in your agency, but you are a victim assistance program, you've got a sister agency nearby that provides counseling. Provide it to clients, but I'm sure they would be happy to assist you with either direct support or they would have good resources. Counseling programs know the resources in the community, and as a sister agency, I'm sure they would extend that courtesy to you in a time like this. So that's another. Make use of your network. Okay, if there are any other questions, we'll hang out a little bit longer. But the rest of you, if you want to exit now, we'll stand up for a series of beeps. Thank you all for being with us. We hope you found it helpful. Please fill out the evaluation, and we look forward to seeing you at future webinars.
Take care, everyone.
Thank you, everyone.